Five, four, three, two, one. And we're live in five, four, three, two, one. Welcome, wizard, warrior, wanderer, wayfarer, and wildcat alike. I hope you are doing well wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you may be receiving this transmission. Welcome to the Officers Club, guys. You've made it. Wow, we got someone out there in Happy Land. Who is that? Free gift from God. Hey, man, how the fuck are you? Can you hear me okay? Give me the thumbs up if the audio is working. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if this is your first time. Don't let it be your last time. I'm about to make myself a cup of coffee. Gonna have a coffee and a hot dog. Is the volume coming in okay? Free gift from God. How the hell are you, man? I don't have any confirmation on volume quality. Yes, we're good. Okay, we're good to go, man. Yeah, join me in the Officers Club here today for a little coffee and a hot dog. All right. Let's see if I can get the whole coffee scene in there. Yeah, there we go. So I was just listening to a video by Bjorn. He's a Norwegian guy, and he started off doing bushcrafting videos and moved on to political commentary. And I like to listen to him, but I think 90% of the time he's actually kind of full of shit. Um, but that doesn't mean that I won't entertain his ideas because I think it's important to have a diverse platform of ideas that you entertain in order to correct your own vision. I got a bit of a rash, a skin rash going on, but who gives a fuck, right? Um, so I entertain his ideas, even though I think he's full of shit. Bushcraft, yeah, bushcrafting. Pour over. You have a pour over cap, and then you got a pour over cup. I like to heat up the cup with a little boil of water, clean the filter, and then get into it. It is the middle of the day here for me, man. So it's just about lunchtime, but I thought I would go live and see if there was anybody out there in Happy Land. If anybody wanted to drop by and say hello, I thought I would make myself available for that. I got the coffee right here, cup of coffee and a hot dog. You ready for it? So the coffee goes in the pour over cone. Oh, we get a couple of teaspoons in there, a couple of tablespoons of coffee kernels, and then wash it. The first wash is so important, man. You got to pour that water nice and slow living, man. Don't be in any fucking hurry to get it done. Just take it nice and slow. I might have overfilled on my first pour. Anyway, he does some political commentary because you know that girl, Grumpy Toonborg. She's from his area. I think she's from Sweden originally, but when he heard her chiming in on things, he thought that he better get busy and chime in as well to offset, to counteract, that 100 pints using a plastic straw, snort cocaine, switch to paper straw. Paper straws are the most asinine thing that was ever thought up, man. They are so bad. It's funny how they serve you a paper straw in a plastic cup, right? Everything's backwards in the world, guys. Man, don't pay any attention to it. It ain't gonna ever matter. Um, when when my friend recently passed away, you guys know the story. I thought about how hollow everything had become. Like he passed away, my mom, my brother, my dad, everybody who really mattered to me, kind of, and not every, I'm not saying everyone. Free gift from Godfrey to Francis, Jersey Devil, you're important as well. Each and every one of you. I cherish even more my relationships with those few remaining people that I have. My wife, my kids, my internet friends. But when each one of those key players in my life that I loved passed away, yeah, it's like everything became so hollow. Even making a fucking cup of coffee and then like this shit like Grumpy Toonberg running her mouth. It's like, how insignificant was any of that? And I always had this philosophical position anyway, that 90% of what's going on in media, whether it be social media or mainstream media or whatever, has next to nil, like nearly zero relevance in your day-to-day life. And it always will be about that level of an equation. Like it's always going to have next to no relevance in the average individual's life. And so with that as a foundation of your understanding, yeah, then you can't get invested even slightly in any of it. It's just such a such a horror show of nonsense and garbage. And after receiving, like attempting to do a little bit of political commentary and receiving just strike after strike after strike here on YouTube, it got to the point where like it's, and I'm not that good at it either. You know, you listen to a guy like, what is that guy's name? Razor Fist or Styx Hexenhammer or some of the other greats out there. Mark Dice, right? They're fully invested, but they make money. And so you can kind of understand it from their perspective. You know, they're getting paid no matter what they say, they're getting paid. So for them, it totally makes sense. But a guy like me that's got a full time job and I just do YouTube for fun, and you know what the fuck would I ever give any kind of fucks about it? I got to make the next fist video, guys, for the 100-day challenge of the Sky Warrior. And I almost got out there and did it the other yesterday, the day before, but it started raining, and so I decided not to. I could have done it in studio. I could have like went into the school gym and shot my video, but I figured, nah, what the fuck? I'm not in any big hurry. Like I said, YouTube's not paying me anything to do anything, so there's no real reason for me to get busy, you know, sinking a bunch of extra energy into making videos when I could just pop in and do updates in errata on a live stream and say hello to everyone, and that's a better, all right. The video I made the other day where I did like an hour-long spiel on all kinds of shit from my childhood, I unlisted it. So if you watched that video and you found any value in it, you could still watch it if you've got the link, but it's unlisted now because I don't want that one being public. Like I was going to set it to private, but then people who were there and watched it might want to rewatch and see something that was of value that we said that was discussed. You could still go back in and watch it. That's right. You are correct, Fred Francis. Life isn't easy no matter where you are and who you are. And wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you may be receiving this transmission, remember you are loved and cherished. And we have great gratitude for everyone out there in Happy Land. So I knew early on that to be of any benefit, any lasting benefit to the community, you just kind of have to keep your conversation, your ideation, your everything out of the general sphere of trivialities and try to stick to the big ideas. Socrates warned us of this as well. It might have been Socrates or Seneca or one of those guys, Aristotle, who knows. But he said that lesser minds focus on people and their interaction, and then a little bit greater minds focus on events and the way they transpire. And this are the greatest minds focus on the ideas, the preforms, the archetypes. And so we want to be among the greatest philosophical thinkers of our time. And therefore, we can't become mired in people and events. Those are the distractions. So we need to keep our minds focused on the highest ideals of human living. So that always brings me full circle back to natural law, that in order for the whole grand scheme of things to continue, right? The grim fandango, then we have to abide by natural law. So some people might not know what natural law is, right? It's that everything has a time and a place and its season, and everything is guided and controlled even. Its parameters are those of yin and yang. So there you have it. I made myself a pour over. I added some black and white full cream milk to it because it's so late in the afternoon. I don't want to just drink black coffee on an I'm not an empty stomach. I had breakfast, but it's getting really close to lunchtime. So I need to run here in a minute. I just thought I'd tune in and say hello to everyone. Frater Francis, I'm glad you're doing well out there, Jersey Devil. Anything new with you, man? How are you doing with your 100? Are you working on the 100-day challenge? Way of the Scholar Warrior. I know you picked up a couple of books or a book and got involved in doing a little bit of study of the way. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm working on Wenzi's further teachings of Lao Tzu, and I'm having a little coffee. Let's get into a chapter, man. Yesterday we read chapter 20. Day before yesterday we read chapter 22. Now we should be on chapter 24 for the masses. Um, I'll show you again. It's Wenzi's Understanding the Mystery, Shambhala Dragon Editions, translated by Thomas Cleary. Good, slowly advancing mind and body. Good man. That's the way to get it done, man. Gradual progress. Yeah, that's always important. You need to get that one under control early on so that they don't got you by the short hairs. Once they get you by the balls, then they might get you locked into something that isn't spiritually enriching for you. And then you got to do a little bit of kowtowing. Very good. Lao Tzu said in chapter 24 of the One-Tzu, he said, help the poor and needy, and a reputation is born. Promote what is beneficial and eliminate what is harmful, and merit is established. When there are no troubles in the world, even sages have nowhere to distribute their graces. When the upper and lower classes are on good terms with each other, even philanthropists have no projects to undertake. This is a good one because he's basically saying when things are in harmony, when Tao is in the world, then sages disappear. Um, Horses are used for agriculture and everything is peaceful. All people are fed. But when Tao is absent from the world, right, when leadership is corrupt, then there are great calamities and the people suffer. That's when the sages arise. That's when the sages have to say something. When everything's going good and everything's in harmony with the Tao, then the sages keep their mouths shut because those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know the way. So Lao Tzu's he's setting down the law right here, man. He's a good man. He says, therefore, the government of complete people is imbued with virtue and embraces the way, promoting truthfulness and happily dispersing inexhaustible knowledge. Rhetoric is laid to rest and left unspoken, yet the world does not know to esteem those who do not speak. Yeah, so the best rhetorician, the best orators say nothing at all. Which it's a conundrum, right? The Tao is a living conundrum. So a way that can be articulated is not a permanent way, and names that can be designated are not permanent labels. Whatever is written or inscribed and can be handed on to others is just a crude generalization. It's the dredges, right? It's what's left behind. It's the shadows of the way. The idealized leaders of antiquity, and I just thought about this before I get into the next paragraph, which will be the final paragraph in chapter 24. I just thought about this when I was looking at some old pictures of my dad, which are actually pictures of pictures, and they're digital copies of digital copies. And I thought, that's not my dad, right? That's just a fading digital copy of a digital copy, and even that will soon be lost. So I got to thinking, what is my dad? What is the eternal way, the permanent way, the ineffable, subtle essence of the thing? I thought, that's me, man. I'm a carbon copy of my dad and not even as good as my dad. I mean, somehow different and greater. I am who I am. But those digital copies of those digital copies will be long forgotten. And what will continue? What will continue will be the way. the spirit of the thing. And I've already instilled that spirit of the thing into my son, like my son Dresden. I love him, but he grokked it early on. Like maybe it's genetic inheritance. Maybe it's just that he's a savvy young man. And like you, Frater Francis, you get it, you grok it. And so all these shadows we leave behind aren't as important as the beings. But somehow the ideas still have to be transmitted and left to posterity. That's why Lao Tzu wrote as much as he did. And if you read Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching and you get it, then you get it. It doesn't need to be much. The idealized leaders of antiquity did different things, but with the same intentions. They took different roads to the same goal. Latter day scholars, not knowing the unity of the way or the totality of virtue, take up the traces of things that have already happened and sit around talking about them. Even they are very studious and learned. They cannot avoid confusion. So that's it for chapter 24. But how can we avoid the great cloud of confusion in these things? You just learn the way. Don't worry about those individualized events and individuals, those things that are transient. Touch to the underlying permeance, the omnipotent reality of that, that which produces the myriad things. So you have to get in touch with the way. And if you don't ever meet like with true beings, like people who are timeless and immortal, then you may have a really hard time in seeing the way or knowing anything about it. But let me tell you, you can be one of those immortal beings. And I don't mean a kind of physical immortality, which might be possible through internal alchemy, but isn't desired. It's not the most desirable. It's the spiritual immortality of learning the way. So I'll give you some really clear cut, tangible examples that can give you a breakthrough to the way. I worked in a kitchen for a while, and I was really adamant about practicing my kung fu every day before I went in to work at the restaurant. I did front of the house and back of the house. I did front of the house. I was a maestro of front of the house, waiting tables and hosting, right? But I really had to draw and appeal to. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's high praise. But I really had to draw and appeal to the logistics and back of the house management of food prep. And so I got involved in chopping vegetables and cutting meats and stir frying things and stuff because I knew that the owner of the restaurant knew the way. And now he's a millionaire. He's not retired yet. He's still running his operation, but he achieved the health and success of 5 children and managing a small business in a rural area for like 35 years now. And I knew he knew the way because I saw him practice it every day. He works 7 days a week. I mean, obviously, he's exhausting his physical energy by doing that, but he wasn't chasing money. The way is about gradual accumulation. It's like dripping water water, but making pathways for that water to stay vibrant and free flowing. So you want you want to see where the dripping water is occurring. Where can I shore up and start to engage in accumulation? This is a part of it, but clever disbursement and creating channels that that autonomously and automatically flow in the directions that nourish your life. So you start by establishing a firm pattern of accumulation through whatever it is, work, but shoring up the expenditures and making sure that your incomes exceed your expenditures. And then you can set to work that accumulated energy to the expenditures which you deem necessary and healthful for your life. And then beneath those, you place more areas of accumulation. So you can imagine it like finding first, you got to find a fresh spring of water, right? That's emitting that positive energy. And that's your personality and your own spark of the divine. It's just like a spring, it's always a well bubbling forth endlessly. Sometimes it gives off more, sometimes it gives off less, but there's always the dripping of the seminal fluid, right? And you got to shore it up under it and start catching it. Then you can make dispersing distribution channels that the excess after you have it shored up can start to fill in other areas that nourish your life and your life's path. And then just like with each of those, the main body always needs to be remembered because sometimes you'll forget it. Like you'll walk away from it and you'll think, this main activity of shoring up took me a long time. For me, for example, it took me like 10 years to learn how to get the first it's the first gate in the microcosmic orbit. It's called Wei Lu or Wei Gu, Wei Gu. And it's located at the tailbone. And so pushing the energy or pushing guiding the energy from the lower dantian into the first waypoint, right at the tailbone is probably the biggest level of the work. It's when you start drawing up the energy that wants to go into the world and holding some back. It's like, you know, everyone has to do some different level of work in life, but it's like working hard. And even though there's expenditures each month, you always have something left over. Yeah, the groundwork, the foundation, the structure, setting the cornerstone. And for everybody, your cornerstone may be something a little different in the world. My cornerstone is Tao, and other people's cornerstone might be Jesus or you know magic or something. But for me, my cornerstone includes Tao, magic, kung fu, uh, healthy living, whatever, communion of the spirit, fellowship with mankind. All of these things are included, but my basic cornerstone is the Tao and the Tao Te Ching and this basic simplistic understanding of universal principles and understanding the oscillation of yin and yang and its expression through the Bagua, the octahedron. And so, yeah, fun stuff, man. That's all I got to say. I think I brought that idea to fruition. Let me bring it full circle. Once you've established that foundation, that accumulator, right? The first accumulator, then enjoy the accumulation and the fruits of your efforts. But don't forget all the seasonal applications that you have to go through, right? In the springtime, youth, we plant those ideas in the mind. You're very kind, Freda Francis. Um, and then in the summer, they start to grow and flourish on their own. But the summer, the season of the season of flourishing can be a dangerous time. There can be too much growth, there can be insufficient growth, there can be flooding, there can be drought. All of those factors need to be mitigated by the gardener, the spiritual commander of the temple, right? So you don't want to let things get stagnant, by celibacy. Celibacy will definitely stagnate you. At the same time, you don't want them to grow wild with weeds and like too much engaging in, raw meats and alcohols and elixirs and different types of fumigations, You don't want to go too far in that direction either. So that's why we call it the middle path because there's a pure path of like asceticism and renunciation, like the monk, and then there's the wild path of the cowboy and the sexual outlaw and all of this, and the path of the magician, right, the scholar warrior. He oscillates between both moments of absolute mental purity with just primal indulgence and carnal revelry, right? And you should only go, don't go to extremes, right? I mean, you should go to extremes to test your boundaries and establish parameters. But once you learn the path of the Magi, then you mediate between the two, right? You can recognize those who are over over creating over acidification in the body through too much asceticism, with them neutered and sterile, right? That deep path of spiritual celibacy, right? And then you'll recognize um the caustic effect and like alkaline neutrality of going too far in the opposite direction either. Maybe I should say that the wild path. Yeah, it is. It's middle pillar practices, right? So the middle path is the middle pillar. You go straight from the prime material plane, straight through the astral world into Tiferet, into the Christ consciousness. So by taking a single breath, you will transmute that energy of primal sexual expression, the Kundalini, straight into by way of your dreaming, by way of your magic, by way of Yasad, the sphere of the astral, right into the Christ consciousness. You don't need to deviate too far along the left or right hand paths. You can just generate it straight into pure Christ conscious energy. However, at the same time, you want to take it to greater spiritual heights. You want to get way up to the supernal triangle and learn the way of the mother and the father. And then you want to push through too into the realms beyond and learn the pivot of heaven. But we won't go that far today. We'll stick with just establishing your accumulator. Imagine it as a small teacup that you place down there between your legs, right? And imagine you're in meditation. You place a small cup there, and you imagine that intention drip, drip, dripping into it, and then you bring it up the spine, enjoy its fragrance while it's at the middle dantian, and then take it all the way up into the celestial sphere and go ahead and drink it back down into the center dantian where you could store it. You could store that good energy at the level of the center dantian, right? And then you circulate it, oscillate it throughout your day through the lower dantian and the upper dantian, and then always bring it back to center. Always return to center, aspirant. This is all the time I have for today. I appreciate you tuning in, Frater Francis out there, the Jersey Devil, free gift from God. Thank you for stopping by, man. Um, I wish you well in all of your endeavors and your meanderings in the pathways of whether it be a scholar warrior or um, whether it be a magician directly or whatever you're working towards, right? Artistic endeavors, financial endeavors, right? Remember that any financial advice out there isn't going to aid you until you start getting your accumulator settled in. And once you figure out like your basic accumulative and distribution requisites, then you really won't need any financial advice, right? You'll always live in abundance. And I'm not saying that you'll always have abundant times, but you'll understand the basic equation of retention. And it has to start with seminal retention, right? And it has to start with the retentive intent of the magician. Like there's going to be times when you're engaged in the world and you're like, motherfucker, I really want to say something right now or take an action in a powerful way. Lao Tzu advises us not to. He says, when you know, then you need not act, right? And when you do not act, you will retain. And when you retain, you will have leftover. And when you have leftover, then you can act. Then you can distribute. Then you can give back. But first, you need to rein in that intention to think, speak, or act. Those are the three primary things we have control over, right? We want to think about it, we want to engage it. Then we want to say something, right? Blast them with some powerful information. And then we want to, really take an action, walk, take, push, pull, engage, cut off those three tendencies. When you see it and you recognize it, do not let thought arise. Cut off thought for a moment. Thinking requires an excessive amount of energy. When your thought wants to become words, say, no, 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 no. 少说话,多做事, right? Rein in the tendency to engage verbally with any of these lesser petty people, right? And then third, the action. Refrain from the action. And then you will know, right? Or when you know it's going to be an oscillating process, you'll always restart. You'll be like, oh, I know, I don't have to engage. So cut off engagement, right? And you don't give them energy. And this applies to all petty people in all petty circumstances. Save your best for last. Save your best jokes, your best dissertations, your cleanest, most vibrant energy. Save it for yourself, your friends, and your family, and your closest colleagues alone. For the world, just stand by and observe the mediocrity of it all, right? Why should you sink all of your best energy into something that's giving you the most mediocre of returns, right? But you'll find true people with the flash of the divine in their eyes. And when you find those people that can employ you, like managers or colleagues or friends or family, who really have that synchronistic magical energy, then put your best foot forward. But for the rest of the fucking shit out there, all of the endless human opinion, just don't even get involved, man. Just avoid even interacting with it. I'm glad I had the opportunity to commune with you today, Frater Francis. I wish you well in your journeys and thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in the future at Astra per Aspera. Until next time, my good man, do good magic and I'll see you on the next transmission. Let's try to meet up in the Discord soon, man. For sure. Y'all good looking sexy people stay well out there in Happy Land. Frank Monday signing off. Thank you, sir.